Ready? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so good to see you all here. Thank you. Welcome to the first annual Wisconsin Idea Conference hosted by the Morgridge Center for Public Service. This is our first time putting it on. We're very pronouns. I am the Community Engaged Scholarship Specialist at the Morgridge Center for Public Service. We spent months organizing this event with a fantastic group of colleagues, and we're excited to see this vision come to life today. So again, thank you all for joining us. We intend for this conference to become an annual event and celebration of community university partnerships, a day of learning, connection, and commitment. Before we get started today, a couple acknowledgements and housekeeping notes. Some of the collaborators and supporters who've made this day possible. Thank you to all our planning committee members, our generous sponsors, our volunteers, as well as our colleagues here at Union South and with McBurney helping us caption and host here today. Thank you also to all of today's presenters and panelists for sharing your stories and insights with us. Finally, we want to extend a special thank you to the Division of Extension for their generous support virtually as well. Let's give it up for our sponsors, supporters.
Okay, thank you, Cory. My name is Haley Madden. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director of Community Engaged Scholarship at the Morgridge. I have just a couple housekeeping items. Restrooms and water stations are just outside of Varsity Hall by the stairs, and a gender-neutral restroom is available on the third floor. At each table, you'll find QR codes that will take you to our breakout room schedule. There, you can see which room each breakout session will be in. There are also paper session schedules available for those who would like them at the registration table. You can see, well, at some point when we get breakout sessions will take place in this room as well as rooms on the third floor. Before our first and third breakout sessions, we'll have additional refreshments here in this room. We'll have a land acknowledgement during lunch from group Madtown Singers. At the end of the day, we invite you to join a social sponsored by the Community Partnership and Outreach Staff Network at the set. There are today so many people before our keynote, so I'm passing you over to possibly the most excited person you'll hear today, the Morgridge Center Faculty Director, Dr. Travis Wright. Dr. Wright is an associate professor in counseling psychology and has served as our faculty director for just over a year. One fun fact about Travis is that he also raises sheep and goats when not doing his professorial role. And shortly after beginning at the Morgridge Center, he delivered a newborn lamb named Tasha after our Tasha the human was, of course, delighted. Travis, lambing season is again upon us, so maybe there will be lambs named Haley, Cory, Chancellor, Mnookin, who knows? All right, welcome, Travis.
Thank you, Haley and Cory. And actually, I had a twin ewe and ram lamb born this morning, so Cory and Haley hit the ground. Haley was right about my excitement of the Morgridge Center. It is my dream job, both because I get to work with amazing people, but also because I truly believe that there is so much potential for us to change the world, insight with campus needs and campus knowledge to inform what we're doing in a deep way. And when the planning committee decided for this first conference to focus on sort of the home team, the people that are already doing this work, I think that was brilliant. And I'm hoping that today will be an opportunity for us to sort of connect with each other, to sort of build connections ourselves for the revolutions that I know that we can create. I want to thank our planning committee, especially Haley and Cory, for their work and all the things that they've done to make what I hope will be a really extraordinary day happen. Before I sit down, I just want to share two lessons and a dream: homelessness and housing mobility. And I was able to learn firsthand the power of service to change people's lives. So food baskets, sort of after-school programs, 4-H, a lot of people invested in me so that I could be here today. And so I know from a personal level that service can change people's lives. But actually, it was also, he also realized my potential to make a difference in the world. I wasn't just someone who needed service. I was also someone that could serve. And planting daffodils in 4th grade and now leading a mentoring program in Madison have helped me feel the potential of service to change people's lives and also my own sense of agency. And that's something that we're hoping to do through our work at the Morgridge Center and on campus, is to help students, faculty, staff develop a sense of their bigness, but also that humble spirit that allows them to realize that they also have something to learn. Each of us have something that we can embody through our work at the Morgridge Center. And secondly, one of the things that drew me to Wisconsin is the Wisconsin idea. And I know that's something that brought Chancellor Mnookin here as well. So I was excited to. But when I was in Washington, D.C., I was teaching elementary school in one of the most under-resourced schools in the country. I taught 6th grade, and 85% of our students read below the 2nd grade reading level, even though you could see the dome of the Capitol building from our classroom. And here in Madison, I work in a school building from the classroom, and the students there are struggling. Here in Madison, we have one of the greatest racial achievement gaps in the country. Housing inequity. And both of those experiences have allowed me to realize that proximity does not equal justice, just because you actually are benefiting from those resources. And as a university with incredible privilege, incredible knowledge, just because we know it, it doesn't mean that the people that are in our community or that are in our network are benefiting from it. And I think that is the great training last week, and one of the teachers said that she didn't have $40 to download my article. You know, when the incentives are about publishing for an academic audience, many of the things that we produce here can't actually find their way to the community because of the challenges with access. And so I'm really hoping that together we can think collectively about what are the institutional barriers, what are the social barriers, what are the incentives, what are the disincentives, to really taking the resources and the privilege and the knowledge that we have to impact the world more broadly. And that really is my dream for the Morgridge Center and for all of us, is to think about how do we translate the Wisconsin idea into action, and how do we allow ourselves to learn in a deep way from community so that the ideas and the solutions and the things that we're advocating for really are grounded in what people need and what people know. Wisdom is its own form of knowledge, and I hope that we can find ways to enfranchise that here. So with that said, someone that has a lot of passion for this work, someone who I think I'm really excited to see what opportunities he'll create for us to change the world here at UW. It's my great pleasure to introduce Chancellor Jennifer Mnookin, who came here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wright, and hello, everyone, and welcome. This is so exciting, the first ever conference on the Wisconsin idea here at the heart of the Wisconsin idea, and say a few words. Now, before I go on, how many of you know what the BASES project is? Okay, a few of you. It's a project that supports homeless kids in Madison schools, in part by matching them with our students who serve as our. And I just want to give a shout out, because in addition to the many other hats he wears, Travis Wright directs that initiative. So let's give him another round of applause. I certainly also want to thank the Morgridge Center for Public Service for spearheading today's conference. And I also want to thank the Division of Extension, the UW South. This gathering is a really great example of what's possible when campus groups and programs work across boundaries as well. And I also want to give a thanks and a shout out to today's keynote, Judge Mitchell. I know you're going to be in for an inspired service. So I hope today's thought, I hope it leaves you with reflections. I hope it's inspiring. I hope it leaves you committed to continuing ways of engaging with the community, and also to someday achieves that. It will be very, very well spent. So the Wisconsin idea was first articulated a little more than a century ago. And a little right after it had been, so Steffens paid the campus a visit. And he wanted to see whether the stories he was hearing about an unusual university that seemed to be thriving in what seemed to him to be at the time the relative middle of was all true. The article that came out of that visit detailed a level of community engagement that marked us as unusual at that time. And it opened with an anecdote about a faculty member walking across under the other arm. To Steffens, that was a good way to illustrate part of what was special about this place. We were creating knowledge and engaging with traditional knowledge, but we also, today, that blend and the mission of public service is woven into the university and to how we think about ourselves and what we aim to do. Last semester, I ran a survey. I'm new, right? And I wanted to do an institution. And so I invited everyone who wanted to tell me what they thought the most precious parts of our university were, what needed to be strengthened and preserved and held onto, along the responses about where we might make changes ran the gamut. There were lots of ideas, many good ones, some doable, some a little tougher, but the response. Any guesses about what the #1 most said answer was? Yeah, the Wisconsin idea. That's exactly right. I guess that was kind of a gimme in this setting. That's why I would be bringing it up. Any guesses about what the #1 idea was? One person raised their hand and said shared governance. That's really important too, but no, the Wisconsin idea was by far the most frequent who responded. And it was one of the things that most attracted me to this institution, this culture of outreach that is strong, pervasive, and connected to university, not end at our walls at all. I'm proud to be at a university that values that and excited to see what we're already doing and how we can take that to the next level. And I love the fact that we do have a lot of beyond. I've had the chance at the UW-Madison partnership to meet with graduates of the Odyssey Project. And I know there'll be I think there's an opportunity later to talk about Odyssey. I learned about the Neighborhood Law Clinic. In Wausau, I got to see the university year working with the community on such a range of projects, from planning new bike paths to improving emergency medical services. And a county administrator looked at me and said, this is a difference to our community. At the Brown County Fair, I got to see the work of some of our extension educators. We got boots on the ground in all 72 counties. And I learned a lot from talking to Madison when they get a little older. I even did get to hold my first baby piglet, and it didn't relieve itself on me, so I was a little bit relieved about that. And so those have been just a few of my opportunities to begin to understand the incredible work. They've been one of the most fun parts of my job thus far. Sometimes people talk about outreach and service as if it's a one-way street from the university, as if we, with our knowledge and our research and our knowledge upon those who allegedly would be happy to hear from us in that vein. But of course, that's not how it is, and that's certainly not how it should be. It's got to flow in both directions. And we are both providing service and ideas and opportunities, and we are learning both about what communities need and about better ways to provide service. It absolutely is critical that it be a two-way street with respect and knowledge flows in both directions. We've sometimes learned that in concepts and ideas over time. How many of you have heard of the Babcock butterfat test? Okay, a fraction of you, maybe 15, 20%. It was invented by Stephen Babcock, and it made it rather than wait, so that unscrupulous producers couldn't water down their milk, which harmed consumers and wasn't really fair. It's a storied part of UW history, and it changed the dairy industry. Initially, the Babcock test was a spectacular failure. Farmers greeted it, I don't know, with the same reaction you might have to a late night infomercial for some crazy oddball product. Like, how is this going to help me? This is, a scam or irrelevant. But Babcock realized his mistake. He'd sent the contraption out to them about what it might do, about how it might help, to make sure that it really did meet their needs, to make sure it was something that was useful. And so we started over, and the new process took a lot longer, but it was that test, and it also became an industry standard. So that gives us just one example of the kind of virtuous cycle that's possible when we do engage. One more modern example is what Kat Phelps does at the Wisconsin Network for Research Support. She coordinates community advisory boards that advise our health sciences researchers, down barriers that can keep people from participating and understand what might make this research feel more connected and meaningful. The result is projects that better respond to community needs and move us closer to life projects for researchers all across campus. I know she'd planned to be here with us today, but she's a little bit under the weather. So I just want to give her a long distance shout out for the incredible work that she does. And these community connections don't just make our research better, they make our student experience stronger too. In the past year, anyone want to guess how many students took part in community-based learning courses across more than 40 departments? Any that? 5,000 students. They're applying what they're learning to help real people facing real problems, and they're developing new skills that strengthen themselves as learners. It's absolutely win-win. And so I want to thank the schools, colleges, departments, and the Morgridge Center for providing the grants that support a lot of this community-based work. And again, thank you for our community partners and transformative, both for communities and for our students. So success depends on collaboration. It depends on working together. It depends on listening. It depends on having a commitment to working together for the service of the greater good. We have so many examples of that, from the dedicated students in Dr. Patty Coffey's class who are working with nonprofit groups to restoration, the students who won a Wisconsin Idea Collaboration Grant to interview their Hmong relatives, to develop materials that can assist with their elders, and all the faculty and staff who design and manage these robust community-based learning experiences. How many of you fit into that group? Raise your hand if you're part of that. Give you guys a second. Raise your hands higher, loud and proud. Let's give you all a big round of applause. Thank you. Making people's lives better is the highest calling and a critical part of education. And it's one of the important ways that we demonstrate our value to this state. So I'll conclude as I began with the simple, you're going to have fantastic conversations today. And I hope you leave as inspired as I am by the work that all of you do. Thank you very much.
Please join me in thanking Chancellor Mnookin one more time, please. We're really glad you're here. And now it's of the Division of Extension, Dr. Martin.
Well, good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Looking outside, it's a good day for a conference. I just want to thank Chancellor Mnookin and Dr. Wright for those inspiring words. Great conference, and I think you can just feel the energy in the room around the discuss community engagement and the work we do in Extension, and of course, the Wisconsin Idea. The very nature of community engagement is built into the fabric of this university and is a driving force behind Extension's mission. For the communities we work with, they can lean on us and rely on us to support their work and their learning. UW-Madison has a wide breadth of research and knowledge to spread across the state and improve lives and communities. Extension is proud to represent UW-Madison across all 72 counties. We have partnerships of all kinds with many diverse sets of community groups. Those partnerships have resulted in some really impactful work that I know has made real change in people's lives. That's why we're in the Morgridge Center for Public Service. I hope everyone here uses this time to strengthen the relationships they have with campus partners and become inspired to begin some new relationships. Excuse me. But there are many topics and areas today's communities identify as needs. Those needs can be addressed with unbiased and fact-based information, with the leading edge expertise on topics that not only affect Wisconsin, but the entire planet. That's communities. It's really the core of our mission and how we work. We approach our work. There are community groups, businesses, nonprofits, and even individual families that are hungry for the kind of information that can make their lives better. They just need to know where to. Our major missions is to support the individuals of the state, the nation, and the planet. That's the space extension. That's the space extension operates in, making sure there's a direct, constant link between the research on this campus and the people who can benefit from it. Here's an example. We have a robust financial literacy program with offices. Our program works with those who live in Iowa County in the southwest part of the state. In that community, there is no public transportation to benefit from. One participant recently told us that their time in our financial literacy program allowed them to maintain their car loan and to make sure they have transportation to get to work. As I'm sure all of you, there's a lot of challenges between mortgages, home loans, car loans. That's a lot of things that we take for granted that we can do, but we have to remember there's a lot of members of society that's a major challenge for. This program really reaches out to provide that important. That approach of using university knowledge to engage both the individual and the systems is how our extension program has helped bring the Wisconsin idea into another century. As we all know, it was a nice detail, the Wisconsin idea. 2 years later, extension was created as a division at UW-Madison. In 1912, E.L. Luther was hired as the first extension agent in Oneida County. Around that time, the big advancement was having youth hybrid seed corn to their families. This revolutionized corn growing across the country. Yield rates increased by 300% with hybrid corn. Farmers were very skeptical of this hybrid corn, but when their kids brought it home, who were involved in 4-H, they found amazing yields. And within 5 years, in Iowa, for example, all the corn planted went from being a non-hybrid to being hybrid corn, revolutionizing agriculture. So in today's extension, that same story, we have a project where youth are working with Native Nation leaders and learning the practices of their indigenous ancestors to design virtual farms in the video game Minecraft. This is a significant project that was funded by Microsoft. As you can see, there's a lot of change evident when we think about the Wisconsin idea. But like that story, intentional, thoughtful, and focused on the needs of the people that we're trying to help. I hear a lot of people know that what extension stands for, but this is a chance to look behind the scenes, the work we deliver on our mission. We have a great example out of La Crosse. La Crosse has had challenges in analysis, and they found that homeowners were really living in towns and cities outside of La Crosse, and that the town itself had very low residential rates. So Karl Green, our extension educator in La Crosse, of what was going on, why they weren't having people live in the city. What they found was that the quality of the housing was not at a level needed by those commuters, and also that there was a lot of rentals in the town and very little ownership opportunity. Did an analysis, he showed that the typical city like La Crosse should have 40% more tax revenue than it was having. So the reason was, again, these houses were not of the quality that they were supposed to be, and they're just with the county and the cities. They provided scholarships for anybody who was a resident in La Crosse. That attracted more people to come to La Crosse. Second thing they did, and he worked with a bipartisan commission in La Crosse, is they turned those into residential homes where people could live and buy their own home, providing low interest loans for residents to do that. This investment of several $1,000s has resulted in millions of dollars of increased revenue. I was there for a conference a couple of months ago, and the downtown is thriving. So the impact of this extension, this relatively small project, has been impactful for the residents in the city of La Crosse. As an aside, and he's supporting our efforts to help elected officials across Wisconsin understand their roles and responsibilities. So he's definitely in a place to keep this kind of innovative thinking going. Excuse me. Community connection is one of Extension's top priorities. That relationship goes both ways. We're helping to inform campus research and give communities input into what matters to them. We're making that grants, and those have been referenced earlier today. These projects are spurring more partnerships between Extension and campus and are really showcasing the back and forth dialogue needed to make real change. We have research survivors. We have outreach specialists rewriting our end-of-life planning resources so they will be more culturally relevant to among residents. We have extension educators and researchers evaluating the support structures needed for families that are going to be part of the collaboration grant process. All this work builds off of what we already know and explores what we need to know in the future. Let me give one more example. Overall, Wisconsin outranks other states in achievement in the bottom third of states for Latinx students. To address that gap, Extension is both providing direct programming for middle school Latinx families and researching the family connections needed for college readiness. One middle now see a path to college. She also told us the program made her, quote, proud to be Latina. So how do we make those partnerships successful? One of the unique aspects of Extension is our reach across the state. Communities. An Extension's mission is really important when it relates to our faculty and staff. How do we engage with those communities? We have faculty and staff that are located within those communities. We have county offices where people can take workshops and get advice in various types of ecosystems. It's really an asset to UW-Madison that Extension is so closely tied to Wisconsin communities. We know the communities because we are part of those communities. Our friends and neighbors ideas for research. Talking earlier with Dr. Wright, he referenced his time in growing up in Tennessee and how it was so important for him to have those connections to the Extension office and particularly the 4-H program. We have 6 institutes within the type of work that we do. Those 6 institutes focus on agriculture, community development, health and well-being, human development relationships, natural resources, and of course, positive youth development. You may recognize some of our programs such as 4-H for lower income families called FoodWise. We have a program to build the business skills of those formerly involved in the justice system. We're helping farmers use the data they collect to make pinpoint decisions about their production operations in many different ways. Today, you'll have a chance to dive deeper into what Extension is doing with our community partnerships. You can hear about our work with First Nations and tribes, the leadership programs we developed for accessible to those with all abilities, helping make healthcare more patient-oriented, what it takes for communities to support child savings accounts. And we'll have a panel on how do we make it a priority across. Again, I look forward to you engaging with Extension here at the Wisconsin Idea Conference and also in the many ways that we all together can extend the reach of UW-Madison and benefit all of Wisconsin communities. Thank you again for this opportunity to join you today. Thank you.